Okay, so thank God, Friday. Thank God is another Friday in the month of May. Here is how we come to the end of the trading week. But just as always, the markets do come first. I am boasting on my fire. And this is what the trading day Thursday looked like. The market closed for the weekend in Cairo by diving about 0.25%. The market was precipitously lower for Wednesday and Thursday. The market just took a bit of a breather, and again is got a bit of momentum back when it resumes on Sunday over the weekend, just to start the new week in Cairo, Egypt. The rest of the continent continues to trade into Friday today, with the Nigerian market up by 0.25% or so, roughly crossing to 109,000. On Thursday, the market did about 8.9 million US dollars in total currency terms. The banking sector remain strong. The consumer goods pulled back slightly on the back of some of the losses that we saw within some of the biggest names, the Dangote Industries. However, Dangote Cement actually finished in the green. However, let's get on to see the BRVM, the composite cruising higher by 0.44% Thursday. The Nairobi market eked out 2 basis points just before today's announcement by Safaricom, the biggest listed company, reporting a very robust 11.2% revenue jump for the period just ended. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. The GSE fell 0.66%. The All-Share Index 90,890, despite the pullback, the comeback of foreign investors in the biggest equities market on the continent. So let's just grab a couple of headlines for you, starting with the East African corridor, as always, with Safaricom becoming the first listed company within the East African community to hit $3 trillion in revenue. The numbers came in today. Safaricom is hosting investors today to a facts behind its latest earnings. That happened Eastern Time. Profit for the period ended 7.3%, dividend of 0.65 Kenyan shillings per share to shareholders. It's a very robust, better than expected numbers from this telco giant, who's also got fingers deep in fintech services with a whole operations in Ethiopia. Quite a whole big company with MPESA, of course, also driving some of the revenues that we're seeing in this listed telco company. Stanbic Kenya, however, the Stanbic Bank, however, reported a divey earnings for the first quarter. Revenue down by 7%, eked out net interest income of just 4.6%. Net profit was down very sharply, 16.6%. Earnings per share also fell in the news, in the earnings that we saw in the last few days, just as we begin to wrap up the week. In Rwanda, the country's officials and the United Arab Emirates, E7 Group, said they got a deal on printing and supporting manufacturing in the East Africa's landlocked economy. In Cameroon, around the Central Africa, gets about 130 billion CFA franc in ATD-backed projects. That's reporting over the last 5-year period or so. And the Postal Bank of Congo, that is the Banque Postale du Congo, has secured Afrexim Bank's 15 million euros. That's a factoring line of credit to support trade financing for this economy within the Central African region. And Ethiopia has raised fuel prices for the third time. Prices of diesel, kerosene's gone up to about 117 Bera. Gasoline will now be selling Bera 122. Well, that's no good news there for Ethiopians. But again, it is what it is as the government looks to balance the books and again ensure that revenue and all that comes in a whole lot more to support his deals with the IMF and also the budgets that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is working on. Let's fast track things and move it quickly to West Africa. Foreign exchange is the real threat to Nigeria's manufacturing industries and not really electricity shortage. And that's what the last 2 years has revealed as we saw big telcos, MTN, Airtel, and others. And then you go into the industrials, Nigerian breweries, entire breweries sector. Then you talk about the rest like Cadbury, Nestle, and some of the big names reporting hundreds of billions of naira in losses on the back of the currency devaluation that President Tinubu's administration did over the last 2 years. It's still about 1,600 to the dollar, even at the official effects window of the central bank. So the last 2 years punished industrial manufacturing severely because they've got a whole lot of imports, raw materials, machinery, and all that tied to the foreign exchange. So there's a big problem there that there's a need to rework Nigeria's manufacturing industrial structure to lean more on local raw materials, business to business supply space, and lean a lot less on what you need, the foreign exchange, scarce resources to achieve. That's the story. Let's move on. ConocoPhillips, of course, says he's going to drill more into his operations in Libya, his outlook for that particular economy. Libya, ConocoPhillips is looking to see between 500,000 to 700,000 barrels per day of output in oil out of Libya, one of the biggest oil producers north of the continent and across the continent as well. Conoco top official who will be attending the Invest in Africa Energy forum in Paris on Tuesday and Wednesday next week would also talk about the business operations in Equatorial Guinea, and that's all that'll be in focus. So the focus will be on the Middle East and Africa, and these two African economies, Libya and Equatorial Guinea, will be at the top of the discussions and what the ConocoPhillips, this Houston-based or international company will be talking about. Kenya Airways is setting sight on Accra as the hub for West Africa, not Nigeria. And that's very interesting, isn't it? Well, Mali has been pressed to pay $94 million in debt for regional dam that was built, while Sierra Leone has launched a job tracking system that will help the government monitor the 500,000 goals being set by the administration. And Guinea has revoked Emirates Global Aluminium's mining license. That's part of the whole rattling of things in West Africa, if you add Burkina Faso, Mali to that list. So let's take it to Southern Africa. Foreign investors are back on the GSE, 8 straight days of trading of heavy buying into the GSE, a little bit of a pullback on Thursday, however, as you saw earlier in the data for the all-share index. But the foreign investors are really back. Again, they're digging into the key sectors, financial services, precious metals, basic resources, gold, metals, and the rest of them. Again, you've seen prices of those assets climbing on the back of gold. Mozambique and Tanzania says they're exploring new business and investment opportunities, while Malawi's central bank has held the country's interest rate steady at 26% to curb rising inflation. And the inaugural Digital Trade and Services Forum of the AfCFTA, that's the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, is ongoing in Zambia. That meeting, a very important forum, will be ending tomorrow, Saturday, the 10th, is having the head of trade, industry and investment across Africa in attendance. President Ichilema, the president of Zambia, opened the forum 3 days ago. And Namibia has allocated 56.3 million local currency, and it's Namibian dollar, for Bain's hydropower preparations, GetGat facility up and running. Finish up with me in North Africa. Yes, Green Valley says it's gotten approval or license to launch a smart electric passenger transport in Egypt. That is expected to help decongest or smoothing out transportation within this iconic city north of the continent. And BRICS banks say they're eyeing Morocco for membership and looking to expand its global reach. Remember, Ethiopia has joined the BRICS New Development Bank and has now become a member of the BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, including South Africa. Those were the original founding members of the BRICS. And Borders has been enlarging very rapidly since the Russia-Ukraine war, and of course the coming in of President Trump in the United States. In Spain, says it's committing 340 million euros to Casablanca desalination plant, while work has started on that 430-kilometer high-speed rail project in Morocco that will connect Marrakesh with Kenitra and have Rabat, the city of Rabat, and Casablanca in that particular loop. That's going to be the second high-speed rail project in Morocco, and that country is leading the rest of the continent when it comes to a high-speed rail transportation system. And those are your headlines. Of course, we go into the end of the week. That's your market week. Enjoy the weekend, everyone. The market, the bell rings for you for the market, whether you're opening or you're closing for the week. Have a great weekend, and let's get together back next week on Frontier Opening Bell.